Gurdjieff's teachings begin with the unsettling idea that humanity is largely asleep. Though we walk, talk, and function in the world, we're caught in repetitive psychological patterns, unaware of our true state. To break free, he says we must wake up, a deep awakening that starts with becoming conscious of ourselves. The essential practice here is self-observation. Without it, we can't begin to form a genuine awareness. Only through this awareness can we begin to shift our harmful mental habits, the ways we think, communicate, feel, and behave into more constructive patterns. Over time, this leads to a higher form of awareness, a state where the focus extends beyond the self and embraces the consciousness of others. This broadens into a way of thinking that surpasses automatic mental routines. The Rosicrucians call this sense-free thinking, the ability to engage with pure archetypes. It allows the mind to align with the ideal forms, the divine patterns present in the mind of God. To the Greeks, sacred geometry was not abstract theory. It was a way to attune the mind to these ideal forms. Their meditations were attempts to connect with these divine templates that shape all of existence. True sacred geometry was always a form of divine communion, entering harmony with the spiritual blueprints behind all creation. This eventually evolves into what is known as new clairvoyance. As human consciousness changed, so did our spiritual perception. What once came naturally now requires transformation through conscious effort. The I Am principle plays a central role, gradually reshaping our life energy into what some traditions call the immortal body. In Rosicrucian practice, this understanding is applied through observing life processes. For instance, a seed contains within it the full matrix of its entire life, from sprouting to blooming, to withering and returning to the earth. Similarly, human development reflects these phases. Observing a child grow is witnessing a spiritual microcosm. Our journey from infancy to old age mirrors the larger arc of spiritual evolution. To place this into context, humanity descended from a spiritual state into material form, passing through stages described in Indian teachings as the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. Some traditions say we're still within this dark age. Others, like the lineage of Sri Yukswar and Babaji, believe it has ended. Interestingly, both the Indian and European Rosicrucian timelines align on the conclusion of this dark epoch. In early times, humans lacked self-awareness and strongly identified with their tribe or group. Ancient texts show this clearly. People introduced themselves by group affiliation. In ancient Greece, exile was seen as a fate worse than death, reflecting the deep sense of belonging people had. They lived with a collective consciousness and lacked the individual awareness we have today. However, they did possess a powerful form of native clairvoyance. Some indigenous cultures still carry remnants of this today, where spiritual perception is tied to the bloodline. As self-awareness gradually developed, humanity began to lose this innate clairvoyance. Indian sages described this transition as the defining trait of Kali Yuga, the spiritual senses fading. Ancient texts reflect a fear of this spiritual blindness. Teachings emerged that described the world as illusion and warned of being trapped in cycles of suffering, urging souls to escape the material plane and reach nirvana. Yet this was not the full picture. The Rosicrucian view holds that while clairvoyant sight declined, logical, individual thought emerged, allowing humans to think in linear, reasoned ways and recognize their own individuality. This led to what Rosicrucians see as a spiritual low point, the nadir coinciding with the incarnation of the Christ being in Jesus. His consciousness marked a turning point, establishing a new template for humanity, to unify with the Christ being and evolve spiritually. There are now two parallel movements. one rising and one descending. As our consciousness expands, our individuality also becomes more defined. The downside is we feel increasingly separate and disconnected from spirit. The upside is that it refines our self-awareness, allowing for a new depth of consciousness that wasn't possible before. Once the I am within is fully realized, we stand at a fork. We can either spiral deeper into ego and materialism or rise into transcendence. A fully awakened I am doesn't isolate. It reaches outward, reconnecting with all that exists. Through this, awareness becomes transpersonal. The awakened self can begin transforming perception. Destructive mental patterns, judgment, negativity, resentment, can be replaced with understanding and light. This shift brings transformation not only of mind but of the life body and eventually the physical body. Once we awaken the I am, the goal becomes direct spiritual connection, not relying on others as intermediaries, but forming a clear inner link with the divine. In this way, intellect evolves beyond dry logic and becomes luminous, developing into a conscious, clairvoyant force.